We're now getting some more global reactions on the American strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. UN Chief Antonio Guterres has said that he is gravely alarmed by the use of force by the United States against Iran. Guterres called these strikes a dangerous escalation in a region already on the edge and a direct threat to international peace and security. The UN chief further warned that there is a growing risk that this conflict could rapidly get out of control with catastrophic consequences for civilians, the region and the world. And this is the latest that we're getting in the escalation. Now we're getting global reactions. UN Chief Antonio Guterres has said that he's gravely alarmed by the use of force by the United States against Iran. He has called the strikes a dangerous escalation in a region that's already on the edge and a direct threat to international peace and security. The UN chief further warned that there is a growing risk that this conflict could rapidly get out of control with catastrophic consequences, not just for the parties involved, but for civilians, the region and the world. Reactions have been pouring in after US's strike on Iran today. And in the latest, the UN chief Antonio Guterres has said that he is alarmed by the use of force by the United States strikes that have taken place against Iran. And he has called that the strikes a dangerous escalation in a region that is already on the edge, as we've seen with the escalation that's been taking place for the last more than 1 week, and a direct threat to international peace and security as well. The UN chief has also warned that there is a growing risk that this conflict could rapidly get out of control, and it will have catastrophic consequences for civilians, the region, and the world. And for more, we're joined by our correspondent Susan Tehrani from New York. Susan, what do you make of this latest development? We've just heard from UN Chief Antonio Guterres, where he said that he's gravely alarmed by the use of force by the United States and Iran. And he said that there are going to be far-reaching implications which will transcend just the parties involved, but it will be catastrophic for the civilians, the region, and also the world. What's your take on that? Susan, if you can hear us, we'd like to get your assessment on this latest reaction that we're getting from Antonio Guterres, who said, was really alarmed by the use of force that's been displayed by the United States against Iran. And he has called the strikes a dangerous escalation in the region that's already on the edge.
Yes, not surprisingly, Antonio Guterres making those comments. If you recall, on Friday, there was an emergency meeting at the Security Council regarding Israel and Iran's war, and IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi was very concerned that should Isfahan and Natanz get striked by any means of the radiation levels that it would release. Remember, we don't know that yet. We don't have a proper damage assessment. We do have it from the United States that says that they've all been dismantled completely. But that fear of radiation is still very real. And I think Guterres is also concerned about not only what happens between Israel and Iran and the United States, but its implications for the region as well.
Right, Susan, and we've also heard from Iran that said that there's no danger to Iranians living near Fordo after the strikes by the United States. And the statement that was carried out by IRNA news agency comes after Trump said that Iran's nuclear sites have been obliterated. Now, do you think it's a conscious effort by Iran to downplay the extent of damage that's been carried out, or it's also a show of their preparedness in case of the eventuality, as they said that they were already anticipating a strike in the near future, and now that it's already happened? How do you make sense of this situation?
Yeah, two things about this. First of all, you're absolutely right. There is that likelihood that Iran wants to downplay that because of its capacity to be able to retaliate to such a great extent. But also remember, Iran right now has a domestic audience as well. They're talking to the domestic audience inside the country as well. And it's very important for them to sort of gauge what to do next, but also have the Iranian public who's listening to these statements, get their side of the story. So as President Trump has an international audience, he has a domestic audience as well. The Iranians are the same. Now, it's telling that there hasn't been an Iranian high-ranking official like the president. For example, we're not expecting the supreme leader, of course. He's concerned about his security, and he's been communicating through aides. But at least the country's president or the vice president to come out and maybe make a statement that has been lacking, that has not existed. But I think it's also very important to take seriously when Iran comes out and says, after this, every single American is a target. That doesn't necessarily mean that these are just the 40,000 U.S. troops that are stationed around the Middle East in Iran's proximity, but also here in the United States as well. The United States is very concerned that Iran may have sleeper cells in the United States and can inflict damage within American soil. So these are the concerns right now. There is that sort of disconnect between what Iran is saying and what President Trump is saying. But nonetheless, whether it's to downplay it, whether they're making their next moves, and now they've learned Trump's game and they don't want to give out their secret or their next move, that's yet to be seen. And it's going to be a very tense next 24 to 48 hours. Maybe not because of Iranian retaliatory attacks, but mostly because the damage assessment is going to come out. And that's when I think then, Iran in the public eye will have to make a decision on what it wants to do.
Right, and absolutely, and the implications are far-reaching, not just for the nations involved, but especially for the citizens. And American citizens have very categorically said that they do not want to be dragged in another forever war, as they've seen where decades of endless war in the Middle East has already gotten them. And we see that New York is on high alert right now, and people call it to be antithetical to the America First policy that Trump has been championing for his administration 2.0 this time. How do you make sense of what's unfolding, and how are the people reacting to it? And do you think Trump has been able to quell the unrest that has erupted after the strikes? Do you think he was able to justify the actions that were taken by the United States against Iran?
Unrest in what way? As concerns of the American people, you mean?
Right.
Right. Well, I think this one strike against Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, these are nuclear facilities. Trump has been saying for almost 20 years that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, even before he was even thinking about running for president. That he's been consistent on that messaging. The American public seems to be on board with that messaging. But to have America somehow get bogged down in Israel and Iran's war, there is no possible way that the American people are going to be on board for that. One of the reasons they elected Donald Trump is because their vision was that America will mind its own business. American troops are not going to be bogged down in any wars, notably in the Middle East. Afghanistan just got wrapped up in its most messy way by Biden. For once, they thought that the United States was going to, be on its own. Even America's support for Ukraine wasn't that popular when President Trump got elected 6 months ago. So to think that Americans are going to be on board with the United States somehow going into Iran and continuing this with President Trump's threats, that's off the table. He's not going to have that public. And if he doesn't have that public and he's not able to convince the American people, at least in the next days and weeks to come, that this was a justified attack, even this, and, he would want to go again into Iran for any other reason, then remember, we have midterms coming up. The Republicans can get completely wiped in the next midterm election, and President Trump's entire agenda, his big, beautiful bill, and what's going to follow, and his entire doctrine is going to be in jeopardy, and hence his legacy. But you have to look at that on the one hand, and then on the other hand, you have to look at where President Trump is definitely also not going to be the president that was going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon under his watch. That would have been very bad as well. So the United States is not exactly in the best position possible, but what's very important is it seems the easy part, as hard to say this, the easy part was to strike these facilities. The hard part is what comes after and the threat to American lives now.
Right. Susan, please stay with us. We have a breaking news just coming in.